Hello everybody and welcome to my base tour. This is going to be a mega base that I did end up building, me and my girlfriend, on the public server Sietch Abbir. So this is done without any kind of creative mode, without any kind of private service. This is done on a public server. And as such, obviously we built it using all the resources that we had to farm and gather, which took a lot of work, but it actually didn't take as much work as you might think. I was actually quite surprised at how lenient this game was when it came to resources to build structures. We only made like maybe 3 or 4 runs to get all the basalt that we needed to build this base, so it actually wasn't that expensive. So looking at the base, let's start off with what the exterior looks like. We'll have a quick fly around with an ornithopter and take a look at the exterior. Now the exterior was actually quite the challenge to build. There are some areas that was a little bit troublesome, such as this front pointed part here, this like landing pad that is in a triangular shape. This was actually the probably most difficult part of this base to build. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but when it comes to support structures in this game, you need to build pillars in order to get support, but sometimes the pillars themselves need support, so you have to build like kind of like scaffolding system where you got to build other pillars to support the newer pillars. Then you are able to delete the old pillars, which created this very weird circumstance where we had to actually have this one support pillar which actually kind of holds up the entire front part of the base. And at one point we actually deleted this by accident and it collapsed the entire front half of the base. So that one pillar is actually incredibly important for this base. It was actually quite a pain to get that to work, but after we got that part sorted, the rest of the base was actually a lot easier. It's very important that you actually build on the same grid frame for the whole base, so you don't want to build separate structures starting on new grid frames. You want to make sure that everything is on the same grid, and what I mean by that is you typically want to make sure that when you build a structure, you connect it using existing walls or maybe support foundations, and then if you want to get rid of them later, you can, just to make sure that everything's on the same grid. So if you want to connect things, they are all going to be very connectable later on. So this base is going to be quite big. There are 2 hangars in this base. One is going to be in the lower section. This is going to be more for productivity, since all our productivity structures are going to be at the lower side of the base, and the upper side is going to be kind of our like long-term parking, pretty much where we put all of our military vehicles, all our vehicles that have rockets for them. The higher tier vehicles will typically go there, whereas the farming vehicles we are going to be putting on the lower floor, or the lower hangar, should I say. I really like how this base has like this nice view. We built it in the Odam region. This is going to be on one of the bigger mountains. It's got a relatively flat surface, so it's quite nice to build on this side. I was quite happy with how the surfaces end up working here. I also quite like how you can build into mountains. That's why we could have this big drop down. We were able to put this lower hangar leading up to the main part of the base, and that is thanks to the fact that we can build into the walls very, very easily, which I really like about this game. So let's go look at the bottom half of the base, starting at the bottom hangar. This is, like I said, going to be my main productivity section. We're going to be dropping our resources into various refineries and ore smeltering. And as you can see here, we did end up having the massive large spice refinery. Now this thing is going to be absolutely massive. Surprisingly, as big as this base is, there were only 2 parts in this entire base that was actually able to fit this device. That was in the lower hangar and the upper hangar. There's very few places that can support this. I think it's like 4 or 5 walls high. Very, very tall structure, so not easy at all to place down. But let's go take a walk through the rest of the base. So we do have a little bit of a staircase here that is going to lead up into our main activity center. This is where we're going to have most of our machinery. I like to have them all together since we are going to be going back and forth, obviously, to smelt the various resources and refine various resources, so it's nice to have everything together. We do have a little bit of storage here for some convenience, and we are going to be having obviously the medium chemical refinery, and then another very expensive machine, the large ore refinery, which I actually only recently was able to build. This one is going to give you a reduction when it comes to your ore smeltering, such as plutonium, duraluminum, etc. That's all going to be a little bit cheaper, same as the large refinery. Another very important thing to build. It makes your spice refinery rate 25% cheaper than the previous version, which also makes it 25% cheaper than the previous version before that. So 50% reduction in the spice refinery overall. So very valuable to build that early on when possible, but very expensive, probably the most expensive thing in the entire game to build. So this room, nothing too fancy here. It's mostly for productivity, so this is gonna be like an industrial zone of the base, so we don't put that much effort into making it look nice. Then moving into the next room, this is going to be a bit more productivity. This is going to be where we put our fabricators and our repair stations. Very nice and convenient to the entrance, since this is where we're going to be dropping in our base most of the time. So we want to keep all of that stuff together. And then we kind of have this big grand staircase here, which actually looks very, very nice when it's sunrise and sunset with the light shining through these walls. I really like the Atreides base structures. I like these patterns with these, like, you got these little metallic meshes in the walls, which kind of give us this open look and looks really, really nice when there is sunrises and sunsets. So we kind of kept a lot of the bases with this like kind of open design, utilizing a lot of these walls and windows, especially considering the fact that you can only have 60 lights in your base as the base limit. So we couldn't really make use of that many light structures, and the light structures in this game don't actually illuminate that much. So we really want to rely very heavily on windows and open wall designs to try help give ourselves some natural light in this base, because of the fact that obviously we're very limited how much light sources we can actually have. Other than that, this is going to be a like kind of like grand staircase. Kind of looks a little bit like Harry Potter staircase, in all honesty. honestly. I kind of got a little bit of inspiration from that. This is going to basically connect the lowest section of the base to the main section, which is going to be at the top of the mountain. When we get to the top of the structure, we kind of see this like little docking zone. This is going to connect the bottom section of the base to the main section. We've got like a little terminal over here with glass panels all over. Gives you a nice little view around. I actually really like this little panel. It's a nice way to connect the base. But when I first started the structure, these two structures actually weren't directly connected. Then we later decided to connect them through this almost like a plane terminal in a way with the nice windows on the side there. Then when we get through this door, we're going to be taken to the lobby. Now the lobby is going to have a couple of main entrances here, which we actually left open to the public if anyone wanted to come see our base. We did obviously lock down the more important section of the base, but the lobby area and the middle section of the base is actually open. You can see this is going to be like a grand entrance staircase which people can land on if they want to, and they can come through the main lobby entrance. We also have some nice hologram plants to give it kind of like a nice aesthetic when you do end up coming in as you go enter through the main door, which is going to then take you into the lobby area. Now the lobby area is going to have quite a lot of lights. I must say this lobby area actually ate a lot of our lights. It is very difficult to light things up in this game since the light sources don't actually provide that much luminance, so you actually have to use a lot of light sources, which is quite a shame because of the fact that obviously with a 60 light limit it makes it a little bit challenging to build. Now the lobby area is also going to have like a nice open design. We kept things very nice and spacious. We have these nice little open doors at the bottom here, these circular doors which you can actually just walk through. We tried to not make use of too many closing doors since that is going to kind of break the aesthetic of the open base design. We want to try keep things as open and spacious as possible to really make use of all the space that we have. Now we also have kind of like a little patio here where you can kind of just sit down and enjoy the view from the bottom section of the lobby. We're also going to obviously have a very big staircase which is going to connect the middle section of the base down to the lower section. We also have like this museum section on the right here, right next to the lobby. So if you want to end up seeing some nice sculpt work, some statues, some paintings, some just arts and craft kind of vibes, you can come into the museum section. Obviously with a lot of space, we were kind of reaching for what we can place in all these zones because this base actually has a lot of rooms. So trying to figure out what to put with all these rooms was actually quite a challenge because we built the structure first and then later down the line we're like, okay, great, we have 100 rooms now. What do we do with all these rooms? So we decided to turn this into like kind of like a museum. I thought it looks pretty nice. We have some statues going on here, some paintings, a bunch of little ornaments and vases on some of these tables. It looks quite like a modern museum or art gallery, and that's pretty much the vibe we're going for over here. Then moving on back down to the lobby area where we do end up going up the staircase. This is going to then take you up to the grand hall. This is going to be like the main dining area of the base. We do have a lot of these Atreides banners. I actually really like these Atreides banners. They give it quite a nice look. We kind of put those in a few places in the lobby. And then we obviously have the grand table, which actually has quite a lot of detail. We've individually placed cutlery, cups, dishes, vases, chairs, carpets, all of that individually placed. Took quite a lot of time to actually place that correct. It's a very nice open design space. Once again, we do make use of these kind of skywalks where you can connect various rooms. I actually really like this design because it does give the interior kind of like a sense of being, you know, not too open where it's empty, but also has things that obviously are going to offer it a bit of purpose. And these skywalks provide just that, kind of just helps, you know, make use of the space while also giving it some practical applications, which I thought was quite a nice touch on the base. Then also in the lobby area, you're going to see another very grand opening here. This is going to be like the main guest landing zone. You can land an ornithopter here, potentially come into the base. We're going to have like these two sandworm statues in the entrance. This is going to be like kind of like a main guest landing pad, and that's going to lead into the lobby from the front. Now the lobby area also is going to have a library connected to the bottom floor. You can see through here, you're going to see like a little library area, and this is going to be taking up the majority of the bottom floor. Now this library does actually make use of quite a few bookshelves. It is going to also look very nice when it comes to daytime, since it is going to get some natural light from the front here. And like I said, the natural light, especially with these metal grates, does actually provide a very nice luminance for rooms. So it actually looks really nice when it is sunrise and sunset. So when you move up the staircase of the library, it is going to come up to a social area, which is going to be kind of like almost a restaurant or a social area. And this is going to have quite a bit of little booths where you can kind of sit down. It almost looks like a restaurant in a way, a very fancy restaurant. And that is what this area is going to essentially be, is kind of just like a social area, gathering place. It looks quite nice. I really like how these kind of like open walls do end up separating the various booths while also not kind of walling off the areas entirely. I think it gives it quite a nice aesthetic. It actually looks really nice when it comes to the interior lights as well. I like how the game does have lights that illuminate off of surfaces and scatter the lights around, which actually looks really, really nice in my opinion. I think this is one of the few rooms that actually look better when it comes to nighttime rather than daytime. And then moving on up further, we are going to have kind of like a lounge. This is going to be a lounge area where there's a few bookshelves here. There's also going to be another area where you can kind of sit down and chill. There's a little table there. Once again, everything placed manually. These tables can actually take quite a lot of work to place all these things individually, but it's gonna be quite a nice big table. Again, this is gonna be like a lounge area where you can kind of chill. And then moving on further down this catwalk, you're gonna see there's going to be another kind of like patio. This is going to overlook the back part of the base, and this is also going to have like another one of these like pointy triangular features above it as like a little bit of shade, because obviously it gets quite hot in this region. The Odam region is actually one of the hottest in the game, so having a little bit of shade everywhere is very nice when it comes to going outdoors, because it's actually very, very hot here. Then moving on out over here, we're gonna have a main storage room. This is going to be where we're gonna be keeping the majority of our storage. That is what this purpose is going to be here. And then there's also below it going to be the water section. This is going to be where we're going to store majority of our water and also have all of our destils. Right now we only have 2 destils. I kind of want to build a few more. For now I only have 2, which has been okay since the base has only been making use of 2 people. So for 2 people, the water usage actually hasn't been that bad. But if we do end up getting more people in the guild, there will be a need to get more water, since we're going to be needing up a lot more of that. Now moving on, just outside of the grand hall, right by the dining section, there is going to be this very big patio, and this patio is going to be making use of kind of like this, I don't know, gazebo feature, where you're going to be able to have this nice shaded area where you're also going to end up having a very nice view of the Odam region. And I really like how this looks. You've got also like a nice outdoors sitting area here where you got some chairs and tables which you can kind of chill and enjoy the view. There's also going to be some little like, I don't know, these kind of like gargoyles. They're like these little statues of bats. And then there's also these cool little features on the side here. You can see these little pointy, almost look like eagles sticking out of the walls, just to try give a little bit more of an aesthetic look to these walls, make them not look so flat. That was actually a big trouble when it came to building the Atreides bases. Everything is very cubical. Most of the structures are very square-like, and it's kind of hard to deviate away from those squares. When it comes to Harkonnen, they're very circular-like, so they obviously have a very different style. But sometimes you want to try to deviate away from everything looking like square and blocky, so I kind of made use of these triangular features in quite a lot of spaces on the front part of this. Try to give it a little bit less of a blocky look and have something kind of sticking out there that looks kind of interesting. Then moving on up here, we're going to have like a little bit of a conference room. This is going to be once again connected to the dining hall, and this is going to be like kind of like a main meeting hall, which actually looks quite nice, I must say. It has a very nice aesthetic here, especially with this little hologram of the globe. Kind of looks like a little situation room, so to speak. Got nice windows everywhere around here, so you get a nice view of the exterior. It looks very nice in daytime with all these windows lighting up the room. It's also going to have its own patio. I think a lot of these rooms actually have like these little outside patio areas, so if you run around here, you will end up seeing quite a bit of the exterior of the base, and you'll have a very nice view of the surroundings throughout this patio, which does connect a bunch of these rooms as well. Then moving further up now, this is now going to end up going to the living quarters of the base. This is going to be where all the bedrooms are. The first bedroom here is on the left, is going to be actually my girlfriend's bedroom. This is going to be, I think, the largest bedroom in the base. This one actually looks quite nice. I think it's the best looking bedroom as well. Has a lot of space to work with here. You got a little bit of a dining table over here with a couple of chairs. You have another little study area over here with another table and a small chair there, with some nice windows all around to give a lot of natural lighting to the room, which makes it look especially nice when it comes to those early morning sunrises and sunsets as well. And then moving on upstairs, we're going to have the bedroom area. Once again, still very open, very spacious, and you've got a lot of decorations here to kind of just give it a bit more of a homey vibe. Trying to fill up all these open spaces can be quite a challenge. Going outside, you also have another very nice patio with a great view of the Odam region, and once again making use of these kind of like little triangular pointy shapes here to try give the base a little bit of an aesthetic. I actually really like these features because it kind of looks like eagles when you put 2 triangles together, and since the Atreides do make use of a very like eagle type of aesthetic, it does kind of give it like a little bit of a look of eagles around the base, which is going to be matching the Atreides aesthetic quite nicely, I think. And then moving down through the rest of the base, we're also going to be having a couple more rooms. Now a lot of these rooms haven't been completed yet. We're kind of waiting for more people to join the guild eventually, and they can decorate their own rooms. The one room here has been decorated. This one is going to be a bit of a smaller room. It hasn't got any windows, but it is going to be, I guess, a bit more private since there isn't any windows. Doesn't have any natural light, but it does have its own light sources in here, so it still has plenty of luminance. But it is going to be a little bit of a smaller room, but it is also going to be a little bit more, I guess you could say, cozy, since it doesn't have as many windows. Then moving on to the room next to it, this one is going to be a bit of an empty room. This is one that's going to be front facing. So far we haven't put anything in this room, but it is going to be quite a nicely spaced out room. So you got 2 floors to work with here. It's also got a very open floor, so like a completely closed second floor, so you have kind of like a little bit of a loft vibe over there, which is going to look quite nice when it is fully decorated. Then on the left there is going to be another room over here down the hallway. This one is actually be connected to the upper like triangular feature, and it has this interesting room over here. I don't know what we're going to use it for, but it's got this nice overlook. We have this kind of like cozy little triangular shaped room with like a little window in the front of it, and that is going to end up overlooking the back part of the base. This is going to be a cool little room. I don't know if I want to turn it into another bedroom entirely, or maybe like a study, but it could be a nice little feature for whoever ends up taking this room on this side of the base eventually. And then moving down this corridor, all all the way to the end here is going to be actually my room. This one's going to have a nice open area over here where there's going to be a dining table, and there's also going to be a chandelier. This is going to have a very nice look when there is natural sunlight coming through all these windows, as well as walls with these like little metal grates to them. It looks really, really nice when the sunrises and sunsets actually end up shining through them. I also like a little bit of a patio area out here so I can overlook the region as well, get a little bit of a nice view. And there is also going to be the upstairs section if you come around the back here, right next to the study, which I also have at the back of the base. A little bit of bookshelves over here, so just in case you want to study for something, you can go ahead and have a little quiet space in the corner there. Then moving on upstairs, there is going to be the bedroom, and the bedroom is going to be making use of, once again, these kind of like wall dividers that are going to be open just to kind of separate the space and also keep it that open look, because I really want to make sure this base feels very open to complement how much space we actually had to work with here. I'm also going to have like this little mouse over here. He's going to be my little pet just right next to my bed, just to kind of keep the space feeling a little bit more lively. That is going to be pretty much my bedroom. Just a few decorations, of course, a little bit of storage and a little bit of a study there. Then moving on to the highest portion of the base, this is going to be the kind of like military zone. This is going to be where we're going to be keeping all the ornithopters, especially the ones that are going to be having rockets on them. The ones that are going to be the higher tier ornithopters are going to be up here. We also have a carrier. That thing was very expensive to build, more expensive than I thought. There were a lot of components that needed to be put together to build that. Still haven't made use of the carrier yet, but we do have it if need be. We do have 2 assault helicopters up here, as well as 2, I think we actually have 3 ornithopters or smaller ornithopters, as well as the buggy. We could build a lot more, but I do want to try focus on the tier 6 ornithopters now rather than tier 5, so they're a little bit more expensive. So I can't mass produce them as easily as tier 5s. We're also going to be having a couple of structures here, such as the large advanced vehicle fabricator, as well as the small vehicle fabricator in the room above it, as well as the 2 garment fabricators, the advanced one and the basic one, because annoyingly the advanced fabricators don't have all the schematics of all the lower tier versions, so you kind of have to keep both. Then moving across from this hallway, we're going to be connecting through like a sky bridge over here, and this is going to end up having the weapons fabricator as well as the advanced weapons fabricator. And this is also going to then connect down to the lower section as well, where we can have this nice little feature where I left purposefully a gap in the wall just so you can see outside. Kind of gives it a nice little bit of a natural lighting, since this place can be actually quite dark, since it is going to be very secluded and closed off. Not making use of that many windows up here. Kind of want to go for these kind of like futuristic wall designs with these little lights inside to kind of make it look more high tech and futuristic. I actually really like how this hang came together. I also like these like little slopes on the side here to kind of separate the space a little bit and give it more of a hangar feeling. So we kind of made use of these kind of side slopes to really give it that feeling of being a big epic hangar. I mean, if you go down to the top of the base through one of these 2 watchtowers, that is going to take you to the roof. Now the roof is going to be mostly where we keep all of our energy generation as well as all of our water generation. Making use of 5 large wind traps currently, probably going to add a couple more, and then obviously a lot of power wind generators, which are going to be fueling all the base components, which actually are quite expensive, especially when it comes to these penta shields. They're going to be actually making use of a lot of power. That's another reason why we have so much wind generation, because these 2 hangars are going to be actually taking up a lot of power in themselves alone. And that pretty much concludes the majority of the base. The base itself took about 2-ish days to build, surprisingly not that long to build the actual structure. The interior also took about 2 days of building, because there's actually a lot of little individual details and things to place down, and that is going to be the base tour. This actually didn't take that many resources to build, other than some of the machinery obviously in the vehicles that took a lot more resources, but the actual structure itself did not take that many resources, and I was quite pleasantly surprised at how easy it was to build in the game. I can't wait to see what future factions are going to come out in this game. The developers did already hint that there are going to be more. I would imagine it's probably going to be things like the Fremen and maybe the Sardaukar are going to be added to the game, and when we do get those building designs, I'm going to be quite curious to see what you're going to be able to end up building with that. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the base. If you ever want to see it, again, we are on the Glacaia server in Sietch Abbir. So if you are on the server and want to come pop by, feel free to do so. And otherwise, I'll see you guys again next time. Take care, everyone, and bye-bye.